morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing great. Pardon the tardiness again, 2 days in a row. These things happen. These things happen. The new process of the notes just sometimes takes a little longer than I think. But I'm getting it in there. I'm getting it in there. But we like using it. So that's what's up. That's what's going on. Let's see if YouTube is working today. It still says there are 0 YouTubers, but it looks like Simply Bitcoin is back. So now I'm not the biggest show on YouTube anymore. What's going on? We were the biggest show for Bitcoin on YouTube, and then Simply Bitcoin had to come back. All right. So we're not in first place anymore. But that's okay. We love the Simply Bitcoin guys. Good afternoon, folks. Sluggo123, Jevy. Good morning, Jevy. There is a special fake news contribution this morning for you. Good morning and good day, Zappa BTC. Indeed. And to the Simply Bitcoin folks who are regular watchers of the Breakup, but are not hanging out in the comment section with all you good guys. Congratulations to be back on YouTube, but I think we still have to do our Rumble plan. So I'll be speaking with some of those guys today, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Sluggo123, everybody must learn from Mike Benz. His latest 2 hours are mind-blowing. Isn't he the best? Isn't he the best? I hung out with him, obviously, very briefly, too briefly. It was unfortunate. I didn't get enough time with him in Nashville, but I showed up at one of the parties, and there he was, the first person I saw. I gave him a big hug, and, he retweeted the show very often in the early days, and I communicate with him fairly regularly on DMs, or at least used to in the lead up to the event, but he's a great guy, and I was so glad he was in Nashville with all of us having a good time. I gave him a big hug and said, thanks for all your great work. I would not understand as much about the world if it wasn't for you, Mike Benz. But indeed, he's he's one of the he's in the Avengers team, or the Justice League team, or whatever people are calling it. We'll talk about that later. We will talk about that. Morning, all Bitcoiners. Yes, indeed. The good news of the morning is Simply Bitcoin is back on YouTube. Indeed. Morning, all Bitcoiners. Morning, Edwin. Hope you're doing well, my man. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's acknowledge that the sun came up this morning. I got a bit of a weird picture of it because it just never got beautiful. There was too much clouds. We're going to talk about the clouds in a second. Jeez. And then we got the clouds, so I just sort of never got inspired to take a picture, and then I realized just before I got on, I said I haven't even taken a sunrise picture. I was around for the sunrise, but as I said, it was one of the more boring sunrises. Stupid global warming. Where's that headline? Global warming affecting our beautiful sunrises. That's got to be there soon. It's got to be there. All right, everyone. But the sun came up. It got away from the global warming clouds and made it up. So we're doing great. And guess what? Bitcoin's running. Who would have thought? We're doing awesome. Oh, Jason, this might be, they're getting better every day, the Moscow Times. They're getting better every day, right? We got a good one today. Got a good one today. Here we go. You guys ready? It's not so much the heat anymore, okay? Because contrary to the predictions they were not able to make about when it would end, it looks like it's not so hot everywhere in the world. There was one fake news story today about the heat wave and the air conditioners, but I think we did that one yesterday. They republished it today, and I almost doubled up, but I was like, I think that's the same one we had yesterday. But it's not heat anymore, everyone. We have a major new problem. They're continuing with this. You're not going to believe in our Moscow Times section today. You're not going to believe. You're just not going to believe that again. Remember we had the thunderstorm and the rain warnings yesterday. Remember it was raining in France and all the way to Greece. They said there might be rain in the Mediterranean, but it got worse. Now there are thunderstorm warnings across the Mediterranean, while temperatures in London and Paris are set to climb. Okay, so we got the heat and the thunderstorms coming, guys. And the thunderstorms. And if that's not bad enough, we got more problems with them thunderstorms because extreme rain, right? It's not extreme heat. It's extreme rain is a growing climate threat to the northeastern U.S. That's where I live. Jeez, those are the clouds that are out there in that picture. That's what's going on. Look, everyone, this is the extreme. These clouds here, that's extreme. All right, we just saw extreme, brought to you by Mountain Dew. Extreme clouds, extreme rain. The extreme rain is growing, and it's a climate threat to northeastern United States. I think it might even be a climate threat for the rest of the world, not just the northeastern United States, but that's what's happening, right? Heavy precipitation is on the rise in New York, Connecticut, and neighboring states, increasing the likelihood of damaging floods, everyone. So extreme rain, but it gets worse. This isn't even in the Northeast. First Burning Man, now the Minnesota State Fair. Rain is dampening the festival season, guys. Midwest rainstorms upending the Minnesota State Fair. Jevy, it ain't working for you. You can't go to the Minnesota State Fair. Rain. Now, some people say, I could wear a rain jacket. No, you're going to get wet anyway. You know it goes in some places, and then you can't have a county fair. Right. And then the Burning Man, they can't burn them with the rain. Right. Now, the good news about the Burning Man is that it didn't create the emissions. Right. So normally they burn it and then it's got smoke. Right? So we got the emissions down this year because no Burning Man. So that's good news. But rain is just as dangerous. That's what I'm hearing. Right. So Midwestern rainstorms, it's just outdoor events, downpours, rain. Right. That's why we got a second day of coverage of Gutierrez, the UN guy, right? And this is where all the rain is going. This is the problem, guys, with the rain. You think it's just flooding where you are, the Northeast United States, Vermont. No. All that rain is doing this, right? The UN, this is the same as yesterday. Remember, he was looking out over onto the sea and he said the sea level is rising. No, it's worse than that. The ocean is overflowing. So if it's like a bath, sometimes, I have to pay attention to my kids. I put the bath on, and then, luckily we have that little, the escape valve, right? The thing that doesn't allow the bath to overflow. It goes into a drain, right? That's up top, like a drain, right? The world and the oceans don't have that drain, guys. Okay. If it just overflows, then it's going to go everywhere. And the oceans are overflowing according to the UN. So pretty soon it's going to be like a bath. Like we're just going to be living. And then the ocean is just going to go up. And then New York is gone. Okay. Everywhere's gone. Okay. Yeah. Like Lightning Ved said. Yeah. Like rain at the state fair. Unprecedented times. How can we mitigate climate damage? Some people said, bring an umbrella. This is the same problem as the rain jacket. It's not 100%. You get wet. Okay. You get wet no matter what. And then what are you supposed to do? Right. You can't even try and eat a hot dog in the rain. How does that go? Right. You got a hot dog and you're like, it's raining. Now, if you have the umbrella and the raincoat, maybe I'd say face masks. I'd say ski goggles. Right. If the rain gets in your eyes, you're going to have to rub them. And then what? Right. So everyone move to the higher ground. The ocean is overflowing. We need to move upwards. Okay. Yeah. Melting. Everyone's melting. It's a melting party. We're having a lot of trouble. So Gutierrez, that's why we're hearing so much about the rain, because they're trying to hide it from you. The oceans are overflowing, people, and that's where the rain is going. Okay, so be careful out there. Now we move into our gaslighting section. That was our weather report in Moscow time. Let's see how the news is treating Kamala Harris, the very credible and legitimate candidate for president who totally won last time when she was the vice presidential candidate. Totally. And so here's what we hear, right? Report. It's called the Harris effect, everyone. All right, it's a new thing. You haven't heard about it yet. It's the Harris effect. It's because she's so hip and cool and she's got the sneakers. So it's the Harris effect, right? So here we go. Harris effect sees North Carolina move to a toss-up and 2 states shift to likely Democrats. The Harris effect, right? It's an amazing thing, the Harris effect. I'm glad it's here because, and there's more ways to measure it. It's not just the Harris effect, right? They go into this. What's behind Harris's social media dominance? What's behind it? I don't know. I've been trying to, I've been first of all, the dominance. Right? First of all, the dominance. Okay, I go on social media and it's like, Kamala Harris is great. Kamala Harris is the best. Some, the white supremacists, they call her stupid and why don't you have interviews and you just steal policies and you've never said anything and you've never accomplished anything and you've never gotten a vote and no one's ever liked you. No. Those are just from the stupid people. The truth is, she's dominating. Now, I don't go on Threads and I don't go on Facebook, so I only go on Twitter, and that's where all the white supremacists hang out, and Nosters, they got some there too. And so I don't really have a viewpoint into the whole social media, but I'm told by credible sources at Axios that she's dominating. She's dominating, okay? So what's behind it? They go into it, but I don't want to. It's just, she's amazing, okay? Look, they even have the shoes here. She's got the Converse shoes, right? Remember that was the biggest thing from the last campaign, her cool shoes, so I'm glad that I actually think it's the shoes. I think it's the shoes, right? Shoes are great. There's more though. We got this one here where we're wondering, right? Whether she will maintain distance between Biden's liabilities and her candidacy remains to be seen. But it's worth drilling down on just how much voters actually do and could connect Harris to those outcomes. And they asked the very important question here, right? This is the real headline. It's not, this is the tweet. The actual headline is analysis. Why Biden isn't dragging down Harris in the polls. Why she isn't, right? Or why he isn't. So he's not dragging her down. She's totally separate from him, right? And they're wondering, are people going to confuse that she was the vice president to the president and they ran on a ticket together and they were together and all that stuff? No. Not even close to the same. Look at this. You've got Politico saying here, our corrupt leadership, and then Vance, fucking asshole, he tries to tether Harris to Biden during a Michigan rally. What an asshole. I mean, they're separate people, right? So why would anyone confuse a black woman who's powerful, a powerful and brave black woman? How could people tether a powerful and brave black woman to a crusty old white guy? I mean, they're not even close to the same. So I'm confused. I'm very confused, right? So now the community noted this, the white supremacists did on Twitter, right? Because, J.D. Vance said to his little boys in short pants, he said, "Arr," right? He just went, "Arr." And then they said, the headline states that J.D. Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden. And then Harris is currently President Biden's vice president, right? So, no, yeah, okay. Sure. Vice president and president, they're in the administration, they're connected like that. But we all know that there's no way a black woman of power, right, who's so educated and amazing, has to feel responsible for the crimes and the failings of an old white man, right? So come on, it's not the way it is. Very good. Now, Rachel Maddow, asked the important question. We always got to track this, right? Because it's true, they're weird. So Maddow says, Donald Trump's weird campaign rally in Arizona, it was so weird. It was so weird, right? They were out there trying to tie a powerful black woman to an old white guy, right? Weird, right? Very weird, very weird. Now we're moving into our general policy, right? We saw last week that the heads of all the central banks got together in Jackson Hole, and that's why there was a Bitcoin show down there, and they're all having a good time. And The Economist wrote about it, right? And he says vast government debts, right? This is news for the people over there, and I think this is important, so I wanted to share it with you, but I don't really know. All right, it says vast government debts are riskier than they appear, right? And then my column from Jackson Hole features hikes, rate cuts, and striking remark by Andrew Bailey on quantitative easing. He's saying, I'm not saying we'd never do it, but I think it's tarnished. And indeed, right, they're trying to drill down into the vast government debts that might be, I don't know. I'm worried now. I thought you could just spend all the fiat money on. People told me, the Bitcoiners told me that the fiat was unlimited and that it never ended, right? That there was no supply cap. So I was operating off of the assumption that it could just go up forever and that they could have unlimited amounts of debt. But now suddenly the experts are telling me, no, there's a limit. So something's going on here, guys. I don't trust the central bankers. I don't think they're being honest with us, right? And indeed, they're pulling this stuff too. Things have changed, right? Why you should never retire, right? Because, they had the government debt and then they can't really pay for things after. It's harder to pay for like pensions, right? When you have a lot of debt. So they're letting you know, if they are a problem. So I'm not too worried. I'm not at retirement age or anything. And I actually think retirement is like a communist thing, right? I think you recalibrate, right? I think you try and do other stuff. But, retirement it's not for everyone, right? But I'm not worried about this because they'll have this figured out by the time I need a pension. I'm counting on it, right? I'm counting on it. Here's for you, Jevy. This is in our general news. Time Magazine asks the most important question after we've had that nasty RFK guy come out and try and say, make America healthy again, right? Who wants to be it? I don't want to take advice from them about how to be healthy. So I'm glad they're approaching this. What if ultra processed foods aren't as bad as you think? What if? So what if? I have another article out there. What if Harry Potter and Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was a real place that you could go learn stuff and you could manifest whatever you wanted using your magic abilities, right? So what if, right? What if, who knows? What if? This is a good one too, because, we got to get into some of the general policy stuff. This is from 2022. All right. So this is December 14th, 2022. And it's about Amsterdam, residential buildings in Amsterdam, Netherlands, to cap rents of thousands of homes at $1,000 and a bit, right? So over 300,000 homes will have their rent reduced by almost 190 euros. Landlords who charge too high rents will soon risk fines. So there's some people who say this is coming to America, right? So this was in 2022. They did it. What happened, right? What happened? How rent controls are deepening the Dutch housing crisis. They just wrote about this yesterday, August 27th. A law designed to make homes more affordable, ended up aggravating an apartment shortage. So I don't know what's going on here. But they said they're going to make it cheaper, and they're going to stop the predators from exploiting people. And they would. I was told that this was going to fight inflation, that inflation would go away as long as people don't have to pay more money for their houses, because that's who's causing it. It's the greedy landlords, right? So we got to do more. We got to follow up on this. We got to follow up what's happening with the rent controls. We don't know. It's a mystery. We got to figure it out, right? We got rent control troubles. We got a Phil Bump excerpt, right? So Phil Bump had some comments yesterday about the Zuckerberg letter, right? So Zuckerberg came out yesterday and said the US government and the Bidens forced me to censor Americans, and so I did it, and then I regret it, and now I don't want to do it again, and I don't want to help Democrats and all that stuff. So here's what Phil Bump wrote, right? How Zuckerberg letter got Trump to accuse himself of rigging 2020. Right. So a look at Mark Zuckerberg's letter to the House Republicans and why Trump sees it as sort of a political victory. So Phil Bump coming at us here. So I read the article for you. And do you know what it is? Do you know how Trump accused himself of rigging 2020? Right. You don't see it. You can't see it. You can't see it yet. right? Phil Bump will let you see it. He'll show you what's going on. Phil Bump points out Trump was president in 2020. Remember? Trump was the president. Okay, how could anyone do anything outside of his power? He was an unlimited, he could do anything he wanted when he was president. Now, some people say it's a deep state that's out there, a deep state that didn't listen to the president, and we don't actually have a president. We don't actually have civilian control of the national security apparatus and the military and all that. And Phil Bump doesn't even need to mention that stuff. That's not important, right? Trump was president, so it's self-evident. It's self-evident that he accused himself of rigging 2020. He definitely said, hey, Facebook, I'm going to win by too much. It's going to be too easy, right? I want some drama, right? So he definitely went and told Mark Zuckerberg to go and do all those things he admitted to. And then that's what happened, right? He definitely, that's obvious. It's obvious. Who could be confused about what Phil Bump is saying here, right? Phil Bump is just pointing out a fact. You have to hallucinate things to fill in the blanks, right? You have to hallucinate that there's a deep state and that there's people who didn't listen to the president of the United States when he was president, right? You have to believe that. Okay, that's not that easy. It's really not that easy. So that's what we got from Phil Bump. Next, we have elections updates. What's going on in the election stuff, right? So just the other day, we had a story from Michigan, right? Michigan disqualifies presidential candidate Cornel West from the November ballot, right? So Cornel West, out. You're out, Cornel. You can't do this. You can't run, right? Nobody believes you. People say you're a communist. You're out from Michigan. Nobody wants to see you, Cornel, right? Now, RFK was trying to do the same, right? RFK said, I'm going to join Trump and I'm going to leave the ballot because I'm not running for president. I'm going to leave the ballot in certain states because I want Trump to win, right? Anti-democratic, because look what they're going to make him do for sure. RFK can't escape the blue wall. Michigan denies RFK's escape from presidential ballots. RFK blocked from withdrawing in swing states. And we also find that Green Party Jill Stein will remain on the Wisconsin ballot. So Cornel West, out. You can go, right? Jill Stein, RFK Jr., you have to stay. You have to stay. You're not allowed to remove yourself from the president. It's election interference, they say. It's election interference, right? So that's what's up. So there's our Moscow time for the day, everyone. We're still going to talk more about election stuff. Election integrity is probably the most important subject going on today. So let me have another sip of my coffee, and I'll get into some of the election integrity stuff. So first up, we've got this one from, indeed, the Michigan Secretary of State. And she comes out and she says, her name is Jocelyn Benson, and she issued a threat yesterday to any local election officials who choose to withhold certification of election results in the event of fraud. So it's not withhold election. It's not withholding election. It's not just withholding certification of election results. It's conditional upon the event of fraud. And so she comes out here and she says, we will come for you. In other words, they plan to cheat again, and she's getting ahead of the story by forcing counties to certify whatever fraudulent results they get. And she did this whole video, and you should see, she is just like textbook female mental illness. And she's threatening people, right? And it gets worse, right? We've got the cases in Georgia. So Mark Elias, he's the one I've been telling you to look out for all the time. That's Democracy Docket. He's promoting a big DNC lawsuit against new election rules in Georgia. They brought in former Clinton Solicitor General Seth Waxman. As some are fond of saying, this is why we can't have nice things, can't have common sense things. Governor Kemp and Georgia AG Chris Carr should be fighting this tooth and nail to protect sensible rules to guarantee election integrity. Georgians, please start contacting your governor and AG and let them and tell them to show some steel. So there's also the cases in Wisconsin. They've blocked or banned in certain counties Dropbox ballots. We've got the case in, so that's Wisconsin, Michigan. I think they're happening all over. Everyone is fighting about election rules right now. It's becoming a pretty common thing. Trump, though, so Trump still fight. We're going to talk a bit more about the election stuff, but indeed, right? It goes across all these states. And again, this is part of where Bitcoiners can play a vital role within the American election system, and not just American Bitcoiners, anyone, right? The more we spread our understanding of the database integrity of Bitcoin, basically the contrast Bitcoin always had against crypto, which has always been the surface area of attack and the engineering trade-offs, which I've mentioned many, many times, between convenience and credibility. So whenever you're seeing someone argue to make voting easier, as a Bitcoiner, what you should understand is you're dealing with a shared database. It would be like someone proposing an amendment to Bitcoin saying we need confirmations to be faster. We need confirmations to not touch so many nodes. We need all kinds of ways to trick the system for to maintain integrity. But as Bitcoiners know, the more you trade for convenience and speed for the Bitcoin network, the more you have to actually trade in its credibility. Now, all of crypto has done that, right? All of crypto has tried to make that trade. And there's nothing wrong with trying to trade. You have to, right? Engineers are going to try and find the optimal levels for performance as well. And that's a normal thing, right? So it's no problem that they're out there trying to find performance measures that allow Bitcoin to scale. A lot of that energy went over to crypto networks under the same concept, but each and every time preferring convenience over credibility. Now, Bitcoiners have understood this for a long time, especially the maxis, because the maxis understand that Bitcoin's true value comes from its credibility, not from its convenience. It's admittedly and has always been slow, right? And it's always been, but the motivation of Bitcoin is not a consumer technology application. It's a settlement layer. It's not trying to be the fastest settlement layer in the world and all that stuff. It's not. It's not trying to be the fastest transaction network in the world. It's okay for other crypto networks to try that. And part of this, we're going to talk about it as we go on, about how we actually integrate our understanding of these networks and how we all live together and coexist as crypto and Bitcoin and all that stuff. So, but nevertheless, just understand that even crypto people understand these trade-offs. And I saw a letter yesterday from Eric Wall, for example. I know a lot of Bitcoiners get annoyed with that guy. He's the Taproot Wizards fella. He's been a big shitcoiner his whole life. But I've known him. I've met him. He's a very smart guy. You got to give him credit. And he wrote a big thing on Bitcoin yesterday in the death of Ethereum, talking about how Bitcoin, because it's so simple, because it is all these things, because it is credible, and it's never traded in its credibility, it has this incredible upside now. And the rest of crypto just doesn't have that. That's why Ethereum is languishing, because Ethereum exists within the world of iPhone 12, iPhone 13, iPhone 14, iPhone 15, iPhone 16, It's a consumer technology thing. So anyone who has better performance metrics, better camera, better whatever, they're going to sell more, right? That's a convenience consumer technology mindset. That's what a lot of people confuse Bitcoin with, in the sense that when they hear technology, we've all been trained to understand consumer technology. And we think of consumer technology as tech, right? Nintendo, everything did that to us throughout our lives. There was always a new generation, another level. Cars, for example, that's how cars have been sold for many years. So in consumer technology, the things we buy, we've always wanted better performance, better convenience. Those are the things that matter. But in a settlement network like Bitcoin, in a shared database, in the type of technology that Bitcoin is, the consumer technology motivation is not there as much. We're talking about money, and we're talking about the resistance to attack, its ability to survive. Credibility is way more important just for Bitcoin. The crypto tokens can do what the fuck they want, right? But for Bitcoin, the importance is that it's simple, it's easy to understand, and it's very credible. And those things make it really, really powerful. And those are the parts of the election debate, because elections are the exact same system as a settlement network like Bitcoin. It's not consumer technology, right? Credibility is more important than convenience when it comes to elections. So there's a trade-off. That's what Bitcoiners have been saying forever. You don't get to have both. we wish we could, but that the limits of physics mean if one is increased, one must decrease. Now, there are engineering fixes to this. There are ways around it. Lightning, for example, maybe is one of those engineering fixes. It allows you the consumer upside without affecting the actual network, right? That's why people have been so bullish on all of these things like Lightning, because it doesn't require any fork of Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself doesn't have to change to build these state channels and these cryptographic tools on the side of Bitcoin without affecting the main protocol. So the big trade-off here between credibility and convenience is really what Bitcoiners can bring to the table for Americans to better understand the election. Now, the important thing to do when it comes to this argument is to not push people in an adversarial way, not turn it into you're stupid, you don't know about these things in elections, and then the opposite being, if you know about all this stuff, you're much smarter and I'll believe you. Scott Adams has been trying this new method lately, and it actually works, and I've been practicing it myself. What you do is you get them to describe the other side. Right. It's a bit like my trick with January 6th, right? You guys have all remembered my trick with January 6th that I used for the Sludge people. So when a Sludge person would come up to me and say, we had an insurrection, right? I always would play dumb and pretend like I didn't hear it. Like, what? I was in Barbados. I don't know anything about what happened? January 6th, what? And then you play dumb, and then you get them to explain what the insurrection was like or what happened. And then you just ask smart but stupid questions. You're like, wait a minute. I don't understand. So how were they going to take control of the country? And then they'll say they were going to stop documents from being certified. And I'm like, but do you think like the nuclear codes would have gone to the lectern guy? Like that doesn't make sense. And then they can't do it, right? So they have to try and explain. And they usually just get mad. But here's what you can do. Here's a system that Scott Adams has used, and this works for everything. Right? It's not just my January 6th play dumb example, because that one was easy. Once they realize they can't describe the real offense and the real crime, they start to fall apart and just sort of laugh at their ignorance and whatever. This can do similar things, but it works for every single policy option, including elections. So what you do on these ones is when you hear someone saying, oh, those Republicans are always gerrymandering and they're always going after the ability of Black people to vote because they need ID. And of course, Black people are too stupid to find ID and they don't know where it is. So we got to help them, right? We got to help people who can't get ID because everyone should have a right to vote. We have to help them. So that's what they say, right? All you do in the end is you just say, well, have you heard the counterpoint? So when they go on their brainwashing talking points that have been injected and the prompt engineering that's been injected to their brain, all you do is say, but you know the other side of the argument. So when they say, well, those Republicans and those Trumpers are out there trying to keep the Black people from voting again, then what you do is you say, well, did you know the other side of the argument? Have you heard it? Have you heard the other side? Now, what you do, and this is the important part, right? When you say that, if they can't describe it, be careful. They are going to get angry, right? They don't like that uncomfortableness of not being able to answer a question. Now, some will say, no, I don't know that. What you do then is you just say it as if you're a Bitcoiner. The Republicans are up to their own thing, right? So you say as a Bitcoiner, well, this is what the Republicans are saying about it. They're saying that we don't really have credible elections right now. As a Bitcoiner, what I know is credibility is more important than the ease of voting, right? It would be a shame if we had an election that no one believed in, right? And so you don't do anything more than that. You don't turn it into an adversarial me against you thing. What don't you know? You just make them try to describe it. And when they cannot do it, then you've got them a little bit open, right? And you can say what the other point of view is. Usually that just ends it. It's a little bit like my embrace and amplify spells that I put in the NPC management book. You have to do it a bunch of times for it to work. It doesn't just work once, right? It's constant spell casting and constant magic that you have to sort of launch at them because they're under the cloud of a black magic that has absolutely destroyed and distorted their ability to navigate the world. So you've got to penetrate them that way, and you've got to get them to think of it themselves. Everyone's shields are up. The maximum Star Trek shields on Trump, RFK, Bitcoin, that kind of stuff, right? So the only way around those things is to sort of break their dark magic shell that they've been ensconced in. And the best way to do that is to get them to light a little spark inside of them. So when you say to them, this is the way to do it, or when you say to them, do you know the other side? Just, do you know the other side of the argument? That's it. Do you know the other side? Now, again, you're going to get psychopaths who think you're an idiot for even asking, right? So those people, honestly, there's nothing you can do, right? Just get them out of your life, actually. They're not going to help you, right? Now, some of them you can't get out of your life. I get it, right? But if they're on the border, like you don't need them, they got to go, right? Because those people, they're going to be eating the canola oil cooked crickets and still laugh at you. All right. So there is, you can be Bitcoin can go to $10 million a coin. We can all be rich as shit and they'll still laugh at you. Right. So I'm telling you that because I've already experienced that in my life. I have sludge people who are so stupid and unsuccessful that I knew from law school or whatever, right? Who still think, despite my life, that I'm the idiot, right? Despite how I live, they still think that I'm the person who, is like, it's sad, I've fallen into conspiracy theory. Like, they really will continue to do that, right? And these are people who, I'm telling you, are dropping their children off at daycare at 7:30. They get 2 weeks vacation a year. They're lawyers. I'm a lawyer. And in 2024, I'm proud of being a lawyer. Who the fuck's hiring these people anymore? You got AI, you got everything. It's the dumbest job going, right? And they will still look at me. So there's no way around this, right? This is how they're programmed. And now I don't have to deal with this very often. And again, I can ramp up the arrogance to just an absolute maximum degree if I need to, and can, be very mean to these people. But that doesn't get you anywhere. That's for your own ego, and that's just for your own humor, and it's, whatever. So my advice is, when you have those people, don't bother, right? Like I said, they are going to be eating slugs fried in canola oil, and they're going to be crunching them and going, oh, those fucking Bitcoiners, when are they going to find out it's all a scam? It's a Ponzi, right? That's how it's going to go for some, unfortunately, right? So there you go. The people who are doing these kinds of election things, they're in that group, right? So now the good news is, right? Well, I'm going to switch the order here a little bit. I'm going to switch this order. So the good news is we're getting more, let's say, ammo to that other side argument. We're getting more things where we can say, have you heard the other side of that? Have you heard the counter to that argument? And what's fun is the counter to the argument is starting to get more and more curious. And by curious, I mean the things that are happening are becoming more entertaining. And because they're entertaining, people want the punchline. They want the end of the story. They want to know what happens next. And this Pavel Durov thing in France is starting to turn into that. And I'll show you. So first of all, you've got Pavel Durov and the UAE yesterday. So Dubai comes out yesterday and just totally slams France, which you gotta love, right? If you've been as bullish on some of these Middle Eastern countries as I have been in the past few years, and you still have to deal with they're totalitarian Muslim governments, they'll never believe in the freedom of the Western world and all that stuff, right? So let me get you one of the ones too that I have. I don't know why I didn't. I thought I had the note here, but this is one of the things that Balaji sent around. And he says, a technologically advanced capitalist country that still believes in God is securing the release of their citizen, a world-famous immigrant entrepreneur unlawfully imprisoned by a far-left anti-democratic state. But the conservative capitalist country is not the United States, it's the United Arab Emirates. And the far-left anti-democratic state isn't the Soviet Union, it's the European Union. This is 2024, right? So this kind of contrast, but it's not just the contrast, right? It's not just the contrast. it's what happens when the story gets even more exciting. So first of all, the military plane contract thing is sort of deadly, right? So it starts off, UAE has canceled the Rafale buy. So the Rafale is actually an amazing jet, right? It's just under the F-35, but way cheaper, very performant. France still has its own pretty good military industrial complex. They build a lot of weapons still, and they didn't integrate with the whole NATO thing, and the Rafale would be an example of that. I know all this because in Canada it was a big issue when I ran for our parliament, Congress, about buying the F-35 jets. Our government said they were buying the F-35s. I was actually in favor of buying the Rafale. So I had a very nuanced, I was one of the only candidates for the party that wanted the Rafale because it was so much cheaper, and I don't care about the military spending stuff. So I never bought the F-35 story. I thought it was dumb, and I hated defending the F-35, so I wouldn't do it. And I always use that as a compromise. Anyway, it's a real thing. But UAE paused the purchase of the Rafales yesterday. So now Macron has a financial price tag to what he's done to Durov. It's not just like he's an arms dealer. He's got to actually justify the money, right? But it gets better. It gets better. Now we've got Moxie Marlinspike, who I'm doing the wrong ones here. That's the $10 billion thing. We got another one here, Moxie Marlinspike. So it's a little small here. I regret that. Sorry. I was making fun of him yesterday. I will continue to make fun of him. But he had a very interesting observation. So I'll mention him again. He is the founder and creator of Signal. He says, this could get crazy if true, he says. So this is the best part of what's going on. These are the arguments and the cracks in the thing that can ask you, did you see the other side of this? Have you heard the other side of the argument, right? So, and when it's especially salacious and curious and fun, it works much better, right? And it's a bit in line with the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. It's a little bit of the Elon's rule about the simulation and where it's headed and how you can predict things. So in this case, what we're about to get is a story or two about some pretty crazy shit. So this is what Moxie says. This could get crazy if true. Telegram messages are not encrypted, which is what we talked about yesterday. I mentioned Moxie Marlinspike about this, right? France is trying to arrest the CEO of a Russian team that has plain text access to every message the French president has ever sent or received. So we're going to find out if he was trying to hide his wife's dick, if he was trying to hide whatever else crazy shit these people are up to right now. I don't know if she has a dick. Candace Owens keeps saying she has a dick. I have no idea. Candace Owens has credibility issues, of course, right? But I love the entertainment value. I love the idea of this old broad. Because the whole thing was crazy anyway. He married his teacher. What the fuck's going on here, right? So honestly, if you are going under the Elon thing that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely, we're going to find out there's going to be some kind of dump in the next couple of months. I mean, it's coming. That Macron has been hiding his wife's dick for years. Maybe. And Arnaud Bertrand saying the same thing, right? So Arnaud Bertrand, who I mentioned yesterday, he was the guy who I was following yesterday for updates on this. He had a lot of good details. He goes, it just keeps getting weirder. The canal enchaîné, that's the chain duck, I guess it means, the chained up duck, some French thing. France's most renowned investigation newspaper reveals that Pavel Durov told the policeman who arrested him when he landed that he came to have dinner with Macron. So it looks like Macron set himself up to lure Durov there. So now there's even going to be sort of a, you fucked me like this, buddy. I'm going to show your wife's dick to the world. I don't know if it's true. I don't know I don't even believe it, really, right? I don't even believe the dick theory. Like, I don't believe it, right? It's just fun. I do it for recreation, right? It is a funny recreational theory. But we're living in pretty crazy times. So if it comes out, and what I mean is, because the thing is run this way. Now, the most likely story with the Telegram is that it's used by the Russian military. It's used on the battlefront. They're trying to get him to get insight into what's going on in Ukraine and fuck over the Russian military. So I find that more likely, right? It's just on a likeliness scale, right? It's more likely than the wife's dick. But or into the Elon Musk prediction system of the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So whatever is going on with these pedophiles and with these people and all these disgusting, sick people around the world, if it's true, and if Telegram is going to war, what they've got on people, the kind of blackmail they already know, is probably next level and amazing and hilarious. And it's just the kind of thing we need in 2024 to break the mold here and to have interesting things happen, right? So, and what's more, when you think of that entertaining outcome and what's going on, right? Just look at the way, you know, the way the elections are likely to go down, and the entertainment factor and the ability to talk about these things, how that plays out when the elections happen and what's going to happen when the elections happen. So Scott Adams has a theory, and he shared it yesterday. He's not getting much traction with it. I did have that note there. And he says the following. I wish I made these a bit bigger. He says, our current election system design guarantees we will not pick a president. He says, we will be leaderless following the election. He says, here's why. Now, this is similar to a prediction I made in 2020. In 2020, I made the prediction that we would have two presidents, right? We would leave the election because there'd be no way to decide a winner, and we would actually have two, and that they would compete. I thought it would last a lot longer. Like, I thought it would be months of that. But they used the FTX prediction market. They spun it for cognitive closure, and they helped sew it up within a week. And that was unreal. Like that shocked me, and was probably the lowest place I've ever been in doing this content, Bitcoin, what's going on stuff, elections. And it's what made me come up with the breakup. It's now we at the time in 2020 had two things going on. We could see the election was getting scammed, but Bitcoin was also pumping. And it was sort of a, well, I guess I'm with the people who are betting on the end of this whole thing, right? Which was obvious. So it was important at the time to basically just say, okay, I'm not going to get angry about this stuff. They clearly did what they did. It's a scam. Bitcoin's running for this reason, and I'm just going to go and do these things. I'm leaving America. I'm out. I'm out. I'm not getting involved in this. So I thought there'd be two presidents. Now, we're at the same juncture now where, what do you do, right? How is this going to play out? No one believes in the credibility of the elections. Nobody, right? Not the Democrats. And if Trump wins in a landslide, what do you think they're going to say? You think they're going to be like, oh shit, that Trump got us this time, you know, because all the people who lose they're going to get space dropped. Something's going to happen, right? So he says, we know Trump win will be resisted with maximum lawfare and intel/blob shenanigans. They are playing for keeps. And we know Republicans have learned since 2020 exactly where to look for rigging. And there are hefty rewards for whistleblowers. That means even if there is no rigging at all, there will still be hundreds of claims that need to be resolved. Either way, no president. Add dementia-addled Biden to the equation, and there is no one in charge now to help, even temporarily. Plan to be leaderless. It probably isn't fatal, just weird. We'll figure it out. We always do. So I do believe that, right? I think we are going to be in the... No, I don't believe what he's saying. I disagree with the no president. Well, I guess it's the same prediction. I'm going with the two presidents again. And within two presidents, it becomes a war of persuasion. It becomes a war of not so much media, but how the system can create reality and how reality can be communicated to people. Right now, we have an amazing advantage with what's going on. And I'll show you the whiteboard that I mentioned a few weeks ago, but this is basically the contrast we're dealing with. Oh, it didn't come in that great. Let me see if I can. That's fine. Anyway, what it is the communication inability for mainstream media, Hollywood, news, social media, academia, all these things to turn the dial, right? Whereas the P2P Bitcoin world communicates efficiently and persuades and grows. The other one is failing to download, failing to communicate, and it's getting weaker and weaker. And Nick Carter, right after the Zuckerberg letter, wrote the following. He goes, the former united leftist front of Silicon Valley, big tech, the press, and academia is completely falling apart. Because remember, what happened in 2020 is these guys came together and blocked Trump, right? They won the persuasion game in the days after the election. He says now, VCs and founders realizing the left are fundamentally hostile to capitalism. Big tech, major defections from Elon and Zuck, among others. DEI out of fashion. Trust and safety no longer an outsourced arm of the government. The press increasingly clowned on, reviled, and disregarded. Outside of the New York Times, WAPO, and a handful of others, biz model is completely failing. Economic reality is destroying the press. Then he goes, academia, major victories for the right with resignations at top Ivies, pro-Hamas protests on campus, revealing that Antifa left is increasingly unhinged and terroristic. Even mainline Dems are scared to affiliate with them. Affirmative action ending, major court losses regarding anti-Semitism likely, elite colleges increasingly discredited. It seems like the point of maximum leftoid capture of elite cultural and economic institutions is behind us. Despite everything, it makes me tremendously optimistic. Keep pushing. Now, that's what we've got, right? Just as he said, none of these things work. They're all weakened drastically compared to 2020. So in the game of projection and communications and persuasion, Trump has got a major advantage now, one he did not have last time, and it's completely different. And that's why they're complaining over on Axios, right? Big tech defends free speech amid government pressure. Think about how twisted that headline is. Free speech is the norm. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, right? But here's the good news and why we should all be excited and why we're going to win. And even in an environment of everyone pointing at each other saying, I don't believe in the election, I don't believe in that. Look what Elon did yesterday, right? This is something we didn't have before. And this is something that completely changes the game. Yesterday, Elon said Starlink will offer free emergency access for mobile phones. After thinking it through, he says SpaceX Starlink will provide emergency services access for mobile phones for free in distress, for people in distress, and that's it, right? This applies worldwide, subject to approval by country governments. Can have a situation where someone dies because they forgot or were unable to pay for it. Now, what's really going on here is in this battle in 2024, after the election, if you can't get the Biden-Harris people out of the door, if it turns into a communications battle, there is no shutting off the internet in America. There's no AT&T takeover. There's no corporate pressure that can be placed. We can actually nuke the Sludge people from space. We've got the satellites and we can communicate and we can talk about this stuff, and it's going to be coming to each and every one of us. And that's where the whole P2P network is going to become even more important, because we're going to know how to leverage this stuff. We're going to know how to communicate. We're going to have those abilities. They're waiting for their big sticks to come, and they ain't coming, right? No David Plouffe. None of these people are going to be able to solve this problem. Their persuasion is just not strong enough. And when we have these abilities, when we've got that capacity, and when it is the most entertaining outcome, you've got a situation where Trump, with his new team, right, with the whole Justice League and all the people that are coming to his side, is going to be able to win that war, right? There is no amount of Rachel Maddow and MSNBC and academia that can help them, right? Big tech, the VCs, the real money, the smart people, the high IQ people have all joined Trump. Yesterday, he released an ordinals collection, right? So Trump released his ordinal cars. They're all superhero themed. We've been hearing about the Justice League more and more, right? The idea of these people coming together from across political and party lines. We had Trump yesterday again on Dr. Phil talking about his transition team. You know how much more powerful it's going to be to have a bipartisan transition team in that fight where elections are not going to decide anything, right? So it's a big advantage. It's much bigger than people realize. That's why they're trying to fuck with RFK more. We all understand that. But again, the whole game here is communication and entertainment And Trump's out here releasing fucking ordinals, guys. He's releasing superhero ordinals. So there you go. I don't know if that's even beatable at this point, right? I don't think it is. All right. What are people saying? Veterans says, Nolan, really esteem your daily creative flow, adds a dimension of realism to actual how things work and culture in Bitcoin land. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to mention. The Bitcoiners are so stupid that they're starting to do what the dumb abortion people are doing. You know, the stupid abortion people are like, I don't care. Trump is anti-abortion now. So if he's pro-abortion, if Trump is pro-abortion now, then I'm not voting for him, right? So they would rather, but you got to understand what this is. This is left-wing money. This is Kamala Harris Democrat money flooding the zone of the naggy Christian women. And they're willing, seriously willing, to lose the entire country and have abortions maximum and for free because Trump didn't do it the way they liked. Right? No, we want a federal abortion ban. So the Bitcoiners now that are coming out and complaining about the fucking ordinals are as stupid as the retarded pro-life people in that extreme pro-life people. Now, I'm pro-life, okay? But I understand a trade when I see one, okay? And this is a good deal, and you got to take the deal. Otherwise, it's just influence, and people are buying and manipulating and all that stuff, and that's what's happening. So Bitcoiners are about to do the same thing. They're like, he's not a Bitcoiner. NFTs, how stupid are you? Again, we have to be able to embrace here as Bitcoiners the crypto side of the argument, not just because of what it teaches us about elections and about Bitcoin and about the separation of Bitcoin and crypto and what it means for our old worldview and how we understand those engineering trade-offs between credibility and convenience. But that still applies to the political argument that Bitcoiners are getting sucked into. The stupid sludge Bitcoiners that are so out of touch with what's going on and how important this stuff is are literally saying the same thing. We won't vote for Trump because he does NFTs. He's not a real Bitcoiner. Like, what are you talking about? So my advice here is, look, in the future, the maxis will be right? And just like I think in the future, the extreme abortion people will be right. They're going to get their way. In years, it's going to take a long time. We're not in that place right now, right? We're not there. It's like even the style of art that sells in ordinals, right? You get a lot of these people, that's not aesthetically pleasing, it's trash. What fucking era do you think we live in? All right? That's what things are, right? So, using these weird contrasts that the abortion people and some, I haven't seen a ton of Bitcoiners doing this. Let me just say, this is not a huge problem, right? I'm not drowning in Bitcoiners who have a problem with Trump's NFTs. But it's one of those things that I think we have to be very smart about. And especially in the market that we're heading into, again, I do not recommend fucking around with crypto. It's dangerous from a financial point of view. There's an upside, but it's the same as gambling, right? But we're not getting rid of gambling today. People are going to still do it. So you got to just accept reality as it is and know that this is part of transition, part of switching to that side. Switching to the Bitcoin standard will involve a sort of hybrid crypto stuff where it's exactly fiat. I get it, right? I'm not arguing that. But it's part of the transition. It's part of the period that we're living in. And so Trump coming out and doing his ordinals, right? And this is apparently this stuff was released on Bitcoin, so it's part of the Bitcoin stuff. And he'll be putting these cards out. And again, it's just one of these things where Bitcoiners can't waste time worrying about like if he releases collection cards or not. It's dumb, right? It's just not worth the fight. So there you go. And we can finally breathe away from these daily data leaks since we got P2P communications. Yeah, hopefully. Nice thing about Canadian elections is they are fast and quick. 2-month campaigning and it's done. Yeah, that's true. It is true. Yes, I despise these Bitcoiners. Well, you don't need to despise them. It's just it's as stupid as those abortion people, right? And again, in the future, the abortion people are going to get their way entirely as humanity evolves and we become better people to each other and we start understanding the value of each and every human life. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. In that world, I think Bitcoin will be the only money, and there will only be one market, time and Bitcoin. But it's a long way to go before that, right? That's ultimately where we're headed. But there's a whole era between those things, and we're in it. We're not even starting it yet. We're just starting it now. But it's coming. It's coming. All right, what do we got here? More dick pics. I like the dick theory. It's going to be fun. Totalitarian yet nomads flocking to the Gulf. They don't mind the Sharia environment. No surprise if one nation is the Salvador. Yeah. No, that's what I've been predicting for a long time. I used to be 20 years ago offended by the no alcohol in Dubai and all that stuff. I like alcohol. Honestly, once I got rid of the alcohol, not that I was ever a big drinker, but if I was going somewhere, I'd want to party, of course. I was partying in Tokyo all the time and all these places. So you travel, you want to party. That was just how 20-year-old people live, right? I think they still do. And at the time, it was like, I can't even drink. I can't fornicate, right? What am I going to Dubai for? And as I've gotten older, I've changed. And when I was there recently, it's awesome. I mean, everything's clean, everything's civilized. Like, it's great, I don't care about the no alcohol. I don't drink anymore. So it didn't bother me one bit. If only we could vote by signing with our hardware wallets. Yeah, I think in the end, everyone will have a Bitcoin wallet as a personal identifier. You can just get another one if you lose it, but everyone will have a wallet. I think so. The insurrection on January was against the sitting president, Donald Trump. Yeah, that's true. Please read the nutritional labels. Don't consume foods with ultra industrial acetyls. Do not do that. Observing that it appears artificial. Yeah, I found a few of these. Consistent has revealed this change has occurred. Yeah, I've noticed. Clearly, she's the smartest person on social media ever. Jevy says, no one lived in Montreal. I know a thing or two about rain. It's coming. We're overflowing. We're melting. Yeah, be careful, Jevy. You're not going to be able to make it at the state fair, man. It's going to rain. It's never happened. Guess what? I got my Brome Fair this weekend. It's Brome Fair in where I'm from, the best county fair. They're calling for a chance of rain on Saturday. There's 4 days of fair, and we have a 50% chance of rain on Saturday afternoon. That's for you, Daniel, if you're coming. I cancel the whole thing. We only get 3 nice days. We can't handle the animals and their beautiful barns aren't going to be able to handle that rain. What are we going to do? There you go. All right. Peace, everyone. I got some stuff to do. I got some calls coming up and I got plans to hatch, All right. Peace, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I hope you have a great day. I shall see y'all tomorrow. I will not see you Friday, though. So I'll start warning you now. Friday, I've got to head to Brome Fair. So going to the fair. No fair. All right, team. Peace.